Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to this webinar on the future of jobs and skills with a special focus on in-house lawyers. As always, I would like to appreciate the East African Law Society for organizing these very educative sessions. For many years, in-house counsel were hired based solely on their legal knowledge. Many employers often considered the period of practice, the breadth of that experience prior to hiring an in-house lawyer. However, recent years have shown us that there's an evolution of the role of lawyers in corporate legal departments. In-house lawyers who want to excel can no longer rely solely on their legal expertise. The World Economic Forum periodically publishes a report on the future of work. And today, we will discuss some of the findings in that report. We'll also discuss the global evolution of jobs and skills, the role of in-house counsel in the recent times, and how a conducive environment which encourages the growth of skill sets and opportunities for in-house counsel can be cultivated. The session will further discuss the future of corporate practice and the skill sets needed for the future. Before I introduce our panelists today, I would like to encourage the audience to use the chat and Q&A sessions to share your insights and questions, and we'll get back to them during the course of the webinar. I would like to introduce the panelists in alphabetical order, and I'll start with Alan Rakakoko, who is the head of legal services of Umeme Limited, the largest electricity distributor in Uganda, where he is responsible for developing and implementing legal strategy and overseeing legal service delivery. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Gloria. I'm glad to have you guys here. Thank you.
Next is Mary Balinda, who is a human resources professional with over 15 years work of experience across East Africa and the UK. She is currently the head people and culture business partner at the MasterCard Foundation, where she collaborates and co-creates with the different centers of expertise in the HR function to ensure strategic organizational success. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Gloria. Glad to be here.
We also have Dr. Miriam Kene Kachiku, who is a veteran in the oil and gas industry and has received industry accolades such as Foremost Influential and Innovative Corporate Lawyer and Best Company Secretary, Oil and Gas Africa 2019. Miriam co-founded the Shell African Network UK, where she established the Pioneer Group Mentoring and Coaching Circles in Shell UK. She is the founder of Unleash Academy, where she offers transformational coaching and mentoring to individuals, groups, and organizations. Welcome, Miriam.
Thank you very much, Gloria. I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you too. So before we dive into the webinar itself, I would like us to first get a peek into our panelists today. Your bios tell us that you have worked extensively with people. Miriam as a coach, Mary as an HR professional, and Alan through your spearheading legal strategies. Can you sort of give us a brief background into what gives you the drive to work in these spaces? If we could start with Mary, then Miriam, then Alan.
Well, for me, people is my passion. And in a way I've always been the cheerleader for people. Seeing someone go from one level to the other, to the point where they are performing at their optimum and doing much more and diversifying their experience is my passion, both personally and professionally. So it was an easy choice, and HR is something that I think is just natural to me with my goals and my dreams. But I also think that in a way I have figured out how we can then turn that into business success, which I think is how can my passion then be able to meet the bigger goals, making companies, move ahead by optimizing the resources that we have. And the most important resource we have is people. So it's my passion on a personal note, but also career-wise. So this is why I am where I am.
Thank you, Mary. Miriam, what drives you?
Thank you. What drives me? Well, I'm very passionate about people too. And I believe my purpose, really, my passion is human development and human empowerment. And I am a voice for the voiceless. It's just what drives me. And so through my career, whether it was Shelley in the UK, and when I then came back to Nigeria with ABB and finally at Seplat, it was really about human development, human empowerment, whether it was members of my team or other stakeholders that I had. Because I sincerely believe that every human being is unique, every human being is resourceful, and all you need to do is create an enabling environment to bring out that innate resourcefulness and really get them to live the life that they are supposed to live, the life that they dream about. And so it was really an easy transition to coaching and mentoring. I do a blended sort of coaching and mentoring. And I haven't left the legal world. I still do legal work. I haven't left the energy industry, but I am on a daily basis doing the blended mentoring and coaching, because it's so wonderful seeing that transformation and enabling people become the best of what they can be.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Alan?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to just endorse what Mary and Marian had just said. They've made my answer very easy. But I also find that in legal practice, you need people for you to get your advice followed, especially when you are giving advice. And also I found that the general counsel or head of legal or legal officer is not just an advisor, but they end up becoming the conscience of the company. So you'll be doing a lot of cultural change. And for that, you have to have the people understand what you want, what you're telling them, and also follow your advice. So it is not just professionally, but even practical for every lawyer to have the ability to convince, the ability to listen, the ability to learn, and the ability to explain and simplify. So at that point, you need the people, not just to teach you what they're doing, because many times as lawyers we're sponges, we're learning from the business. If I work in a company that is largely engineering based, so I've started learning to speak that language and then advise them on what the law says about what they do, and if you can convince them, then you are doing your job. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insights. I would like us to delve a little bit into the topic for today, and I'll start with the one theme that seems to be running today, and that's technology. Technology is here to stay, and it keeps evolving. I would like for each one of you in your different spheres of experience to help us understand how is the evolution of technology going to impact, especially in-house lawyers who are the main audience for today. If we could start with Mary. Mary, give us a more general sense of where technology is taking us, and then maybe Miriam and Alan can give us a bit more, can focus a bit more on in-house lawyers.
Thank you, Gloria. Not where it is going to where it has taken us already. The tech of this time is very efficient, very fast, bringing the world closer. A lot of things are automated. So this is usually, the first to be affected has been processes that are usually repetitive, doing the same thing over and over. Also things like research, finding information, it's so simple. And it's taking away from us having our roles be more operational, because the operations is automated and you just do it once, set it up, and it's going to do the rest for you. And that means that now we have more time to delve into what else can I contribute? How else can I bring value? So whereas I'll give just an example before we go to the lawyers, even in HR, whereas we used to hire officers for payroll, for leave management, we don't need to hire these people anymore because we have the tools to do that. So what else can this person do? And that means you start to bring value that is different from what you maybe studied. So I believe now the technical competencies that we have from school, from law school, will get us through the door. But once you're there, you have to become more valuable in other ways, maybe in the softer skill side of things. And with technology, people might feel threatened about their jobs, but I think it's just a chance for evolving. So we have to think, what else can I do now that my job, or 50% of my job, can be done, in a minute, in a second. So this is where it's taking us, and it's affecting literally everybody, every sector. So on a general note, we have to also become more technically savvy. So can you use these tools? And just to let you know, there will always be a human element required. So what you need to do is find that space and then be able to fit in with the technology. Yeah.
Thank you. Miriam, what's your contribution?
Yeah, thank you. That was an interesting perspective that Mary brought in, and I totally agree with her. When you look deeper into the in-house counsel, there are two elements I would want to highlight in relation to technology. One, which we talk a lot about, is AI and the impact it will have on lawyers in-house. And that could be a topic that will take you hours. So I'll leave that for now and focus on the second part, which is how the in-house legal would use technology and where that stands with the future of the in-house counsel. So where we are today is that being part of a company or a business, the same parameters that are used to judge other departments are now being used to judge legal. So for instance, whether it's cost reduction, value to the business, we're no longer really seen as merely an overhead that comes in when things have gone wrong. So that's moving, there's a transition there. And so there's this pressure for cost reduction, there's regulatory overload, there is things like compliance, whether you're being proactive or you're being reactive. There's also the part of the new generation of lawyers who come in and they're demanding a different kind of management from the general counsel and the managers that are there. And as you're doing that, the business management also need you to take care of the legal health of the company. And so tailor your advice to the business. And so there you are, a business lawyer, but you're also a mentor and coach, you're also a cost optimizer and a regulatory person, and then managing all that in a way that is emotionally intelligent, all right? So you will find that you do need technology. For instance, you might need a platform for compliance. So when I was a general counsel of CEPLAT, that was one of the things we had to do, because you have to get to a point where you empower the business people that you advise to be able to take decisions without having a lawyer in the room, although still within the parameters set by legal to do that. But technology would help you do something like that. We also had a platform for corporate governance, because there are some of those decisions that business people can take without having a lawyer there. Contracting process, having your standard documents, but you have a portal where they can just go and it will lead them to the right template that they need for the contract they're dealing with. So in-house counsel have to deal with that and not feel threatened. In fact, it demands a lot of creativity. And the general counsel has to create that environment where the young people also feel that they are working with technology that is apt for the world where we are in. So what that then does, that it frees you up for that human element that Mary talked about. And so for the in-house counsel of the future, technology is a must. Creativity is a must. And to manage the young people that are coming, you have to deal with technology.
We need to get out of our comfort zones, basically.
Definitely.
Alan.
What I find interesting is they call us lawyers the last medieval guild. We're the ones who are the last to adopt technology. The accountants have theirs, some guys have had software for decades and centuries even. So we're just catching up now. And there are two aspects that I just want to look at, because it's always good to come after Mary and Marian, because they cover the most interesting parts. Firstly, you already have software you're using. I'm just thinking how we always had conferences that were in person. Now we're using Zoom. We seem to act like we were born. By the time we were born, Zoom was around. It's very new. We've adopted it, and I think it probably arose because of the travel restrictions when COVID was around. I think that was one of the factors that made us adopt technology much quicker. I'm sure very many people, and I'll speak for myself, adopted contract approval and signing software at that time because you couldn't reach the approvers physically. So sometimes circumstances lead you to have to adopt technology. We use a lot of collaboration technology. You know, we finally realize Microsoft has a lot of stuff that you can use that you were ignoring before, but you were paying for. So we are optimizing the money we spend on software now. Most companies have software for other functions. You might have an enterprise resource software that you think only applies to, say, supply chain and finance, but there's always a legal module in there which helps you with contracts. I think every lawyer should understand the existing software that is not specifically designed for legal and use it. Secondly, in terms of protecting your business, whenever your business develops some kind of solution, you should be the lead on intellectual property, and also ensuring that things like data privacy, compliance, and whether the software is actually helping the business grow. That is our role now. And if your business is developing things and not getting paid for them, I think there's a bit of advice you need to give your exco now. And then lastly, we've seen a lot of growth in legal tech, and everyone seems to be adopting legal tech. It usually starts with contracting, but like Mary said, we need to free ourselves to be lawyers. So why should you write a report every month? Why can't you get a computer to generate it? And then also in terms of data, you should be able to interpret the data that you get from everything from issue management, case management, to if you handle insurance claims, and then be able to tell the business what strategies they should adopt and what this business means. For instance, with me, every insurance claim that is a motor insurance claim has a lot of information I can use for safety, for our fleet management, for HR, and also for energy management. So I give a lot of advice that is strategic and not necessarily legal. So yeah, so that's the place for technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I kind of feel like you've already preempted the next question I was going to ask, and it's a good thing. Because the same report, the World Economic Forum report, talked about skills that employers see as rising in prominence. And these are reported to be critical thinking and analysis, problem solving, skills in self-management, such as active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. Can we like delve a little more into this now? If we're going to free up our time by digitalizing our world, how then do we make sure that we are growing in these skills that seem to be rising? Mary, as always, to give us the general framework. I always come back to you for the general framework, and then we go into the specifics. Yeah.
I think in relation to what we just answered and freeing you up to do other things, it means that the expectation from people that are relying on you is changing. So maybe even when we are measuring how well you're performing, we are not going to base on contracts and and I don't know, the documentation that you've done or your ability to quote sections and precedents. Sorry, just away from here. But so with things that you've said, like the critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, it means that you're more of a thought partner to people. And, you need to sit down and bring a different type of value to your exco for those who sit with senior management or for those that support teams across. It means you need to understand the across functions, what work do they do? And then what's my role as, especially for in-house lawyers that are more of advisory. I don't think that when we come to the in-house lawyers, we want you to quote a section. We really want you to think with us. we want you to understand our goals. So even on the business side, a critical thinker who can really understand the goals and then understand the law and then be able to speak both languages. So this is the law. I need to translate it to my business lead so that we can find a way to meet the general goal. And I think that's why problem solving, flexibility are things that are important to you. So people invest more in understanding how to be that kind of lawyer who is more than a lawyer. So, and I'm seeing that lawyers are now growing into business executives too, but it's because they are able to think outside the law, be able to understand, you know, what is really needed for success. Is it for me to quote the law or is it for me to actually advise if the law is like this? And also even think about things like, should we change the law? I mean, do you think about such things and then think, how can I actually become now a bigger person in this community, in this place, if this is actually becoming a blocker? So because what we expect from lawyers has changed, it means that we need to grow into other things like these skills that you've quoted. Yeah.
Like make it make sense.
Make it make sense. Don't yell the law at me. How does it apply to me?
I mean, we get that. That's why you're here today, to help us in our blind spots. Miriam? Or maybe should I start with Alan this time? Alan, you go first.
Just to summarize what Mary said, if you are not bringing a solution, you're part of the problem. So ideally, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has been in this situation. When I was a very young lawyer, I was in a room with two parties that were negotiating a settlement. There was a litigation going on. At some point, they just said, can all the lawyers leave the room? So we walked out, came back after 10 minutes, and they had reached a settlement. So it was clear the lawyers were the problem because we were quoting the law, quarreling, trying to show that we knew what we were doing and we had earned our money. So that's a serious indictment of legal practice where you have to leave the room for your clients to reach an agreement. I think those days we've matured quite a bit now. I think I'm more inclined to look for settlement than to show that I went to law school and those 5 years were very useful. I think every lawyer now, as a rule, consider your legal training to be 20%. And once you've finished with law school, your education is only just starting. And there's one thing they taught us in legal practice is you have to be liked. So you have to work very hard for people to like you or respect you, because that's the way you will get your way around places. So your social capital is very important. So what we found is that how efficient you are is based on how you do the soft skills. Do you know somebody who you can talk to? Can you walk into a room and get the goodwill that you need for you to get some kind of consensus or harmony between the parties? And all that requires a level of emotional intelligence that comes not from, as Mary would say, talking about case law and a few statutes. So I think the what I call soft skills, but really what are really leadership traits, come from understanding how to deal with people. Secondly, you most likely are dealing in a very complex area and you have a team that is looking to you for leadership. They could be your team, the people you work with in your department, or they could be people in the company that really need cover from you. So if you are not going to look at the leadership aspects of your business, you're always going to be either one, a rubber stamp that people come to when they just want to say legal approved this, even if it's right or wrong. Two, the whipping boy, who they will come to and say, legal cleared this, we've made a mistake, but it was legal. Or you'll be the cleanup guy, who they'll make a mistake knowing that there's always going to be legal covering us, and that's a moral hazard in itself. You need to be able to get a seat at the table, and you will never get a seat at the table by speaking legalese. So we must get to a point where we understand it. They understand us, and we understand the business, and we give advice that is practical. So we should stop calling ourselves legal advisors and call ourselves strategic advisors to the business. And the aspects that of leadership are key for that. Thank you.
Mary, any additional, Miriam, sorry, additional thoughts?
Yes, thank you very much. I think what the world report, what was it again? WF
World
report?
Economic, yeah.
WF report said is actually one of the most critical things about the future of the in-house counsel. Now, in every way you think about it, your academic qualifications have become the standard. Everybody can get it. Everybody can get to school, get it. So as you're coming in, that's the standard. What makes the difference between you becoming a leader and you not becoming a leader in that industry or in that company are those soft skills that we're talking about. And so for lawyers, one of the first things we have to think about is first your mindset towards the business. Do you see yourself as them and us, or do you see yourself as a member of the team that's part of this company trying to deliver the corporate goals of this company? Part of this company that's creating the environment to position the business for success. And when you see yourself from that perspective, then you will realize that it's not just about the law. Yes, you bring in that expertise of the law, but you have to communicate it in a way that the business will understand. And so from get-go, effective communication is very key. If the intention is to communicate, then citing section this, section that, and using legalese is not going to get that. And then you lose the audience that you want to get to. Secondly, emotional intelligence is very important. If you're advising the board, for instance, or management, sending them a 5-page document that's listing legalese is not going to get you any points. They probably need a 1-pager that shows that you understand the problem, you're asking the right questions, and you're giving them the right answers. And so you might, in the background, do all the legal analysis, but when you're dealing with management, they don't have time. There's a problem, give us the solution. You're not there to show them what you know. Again, all lawyers, we want to make a positive impact. And at that point, I think about the impact triangle, which is made up of 3 things. 1 is what you know. 2 is how you do what you do. And then 3 is who knows what you're doing and what you know. If I ask people if I give them 100% to give each of those, I usually get it upside down, and people will put what you know and how you do as having the largest portion of the 100%. But unfortunately, what you know is about 10%. So Alan, I would actually put the academic degree at 10%. And then how you do what you do, whether it's the analysis, the collaboration, is about 30%. And then who knows what you're doing and what you know is about 60%, which means your interpersonal skills, your personal and corporate leadership, stakeholder management, stakeholder engagement, those things are very important. And for you to be able to do that 60% well, your social intelligence has to be on top. Your cultural intelligence has to be up, emotional intelligence, and then resilience, because it's not everybody that's going to agree with what you want to do. And so when, as a lawyer, you have a vision, the question I'll ask is, why should anybody follow you? What makes you think that everybody should share in that vision? And if you can't, it could convince people about that vision, then you're not an effective leader. You're not even an effective lawyer. So all those soft skills, whether it's resilience, influencing other people. So you manage yourself, but you also have to learn how to influence other people, including those that are in your way. So I always think about, who needs to know about what you're doing, who has influence, who can make the decision, but who can stop you from achieving what you're achieving. So for instance, the MD might be the person that has the decision to make, but then somebody else has the MD's ear. And so when you come to make your presentation, it's better for you that that person is quiet than they spoke against what you're saying. And so before you come into that boardroom to make your presentation, have you engaged that person that you know will come against you and just at least deal with their ego and everything, so that when you come to make your presentation, you have the support that you need. In the same way, you have to handle as managers, you need to know how to manage your people because of the tone from the top. Because no matter how smart you are, no matter if your environment is toxic, you can destroy very good talent in the company. I'm sure Mary would agree. And so as a manager, you need to create a space where the employees that the company is investing in can thrive, be creative, do their job, and make the company thrive. If you create a toxic environment or a very negative environment, then no matter how smart you are, no matter how the law you can write is, then you're not going to be effective. So for the future of the in-house counsel, those soft skills are so important that you cannot overemphasize how important they are. Thank you.
Thank you so much to take in there. And I just want to take us to the next question. So we've been speaking about this from a more of a general sense, but I want to bring it a little bit closer to home. And the same report says that employed workers have now started taking courses on personal development. So I want to get a sense from you whether lawyers make part of that 88% or not. Like, how many lawyers have realized that taking personal development courses is now important? Let's forget about the theory behind it, but the practice. Mary, as usual, we start with you.
Yeah. So we've been tasked as HR people to make sure that we have budgets for learning, because these days when you interview people, they tell you what's the do I have growth opportunities in this company? How will you support my growth? So a lot of us are spending time drawing out career paths with people, development plans, and enabling people to learn. And people have this, the uptake is huge. Having said that, with that background, lawyers are not a big number. I would say in my experience, they are usually not signing up for these courses because there's still a place where lawyers don't see themselves beyond I'm a lawyer. And it seems like these initiatives that are in the company where you can go learn, project planning or relationship management or things like leadership, unless there are companies that are forcing people and holding them accountable, they're not voluntarily signing up for these things. And I think it's that place where the lawyers, their work is very siloed and they're not thinking, what else can I do? So unfortunately, in my experience, I would say it's below 5%. And for most of that 5%, it's people that are sitting on EXCO who have ended up in courses where they are mandated to do them because, EXCO is going to do this, and then you're part of it. But we don't see them being proactive and saying, and it's because whereas the others are thinking, what else, what is my journey in 5 years, in 10 years? And do I want to actually stay, a compliance officer? Can I do something else? And then they start to chart their development like that, and they are able to ask, I want to do this, can I do it? And we have these budgets. Whereas for the lawyers, you don't usually find that there's more long-term thinking. And that means that personal development plans are not really that great for the lawyers. So that's my experience. The number is low for lawyers.
Blind spots here. Alan, I'll let Miriam take this last. Alan, please defend us or not.
It's interesting because I think we are beginning to learn about this the hard way. During our training, we really taught about being a lawyer. You go through it like a gladiator. We'll have sleepless nights. Lawyers are supposed to go through a lot. The first 10 years, you're going to be really a workhorse, and then it will start getting easier from there, though it never really does. But we know very well that there are two aspects. One, the leadership aspects of our practice are very important. So I've had to actually do quite a bit of the, 7 Habits, the Franklin Coveys, the other leadership tools that we've had. Then there's also the need to be self-aware. So, you know, I went, if I hadn't done that, I think it was done by one of the Maxwell team, the what is that? The Jungian, I won't try and pronounce it, where you do an assessment of who you are, you know,
For the personality
the
testing.
yellow, red, green, yeah, personality
Okay.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
So it taught me a lot about who I am, which then will translate into what kind of leader you'll be. I didn't think it was very important until I actually went through it, because many times you'll be asking, so will I become certified in something? Can I go to High Court and become a notary public after this, or something like that? And we think about ourselves within our practice. But one, because we are definitely becoming leaders in our business and strategic in nature, you have to learn to deal with people. So you need that kind of training. Two, personally, and I've seen it a lot, especially in the last 2 years, ever since the COVID ravaged us, 3 years, we've seen a lot more burnout for lawyers, even in-house. We've seen a lot of people being overwhelmed because they're not balancing the different aspects of their lives, their homes, their health. We see a lot of health issues for lawyers, and I'm going to be really focused on lawyers. Everyone else has them, but I see a lot of lawyers getting health-related issues like high blood pressure, diabetes, because they work too hard, they don't take care of themselves the way they can, and then they don't balance. Then you have social issues like alcoholism, family breakdown. But many of those things come from not understanding what you're about, not finding the right kind of balance, and then not also knowing who you are in terms of everything. You think you're Superman, but sometimes when you break down, there'll be some issues. So I've seen it in legal practice, and I think that understanding yourself, and many times we don't understand ourselves. Somebody has to come and tell us about it, is very important, and that's where. First of all, from the defensive side of it, understanding yourself and understanding the people you work with can help with your health and your peace of mind, and also increase your efficiency. But it can also help you make an impact through building your teams, because you don't want the people who you're mentoring or working with to never grow. I look forward to a time when, like we always say, we work ourselves into irrelevance by making sure that people who we work with become better than us. So law is the only place where you're supposed to groom the person who will take your job, and I think that's where we need to go. So yes, I think the numbers are still low, but I think we've got it to a point where it's critical that we do it even for survival. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Miriam?
Hello, thank you. I totally agree with Mary and Alan. And I'll start with reiterating the fact that the greatest gift you can give yourself is knowledge of self. Unfortunately, getting to know yourself objectively is quite challenging. So you need someone to help you highlight some of your autopilots and your blind spots, because we're programmed from childhood, we're conditioned by our loved ones, our schools, our friends, our churches or mosques or places of faith, the society as a whole, and now social media. And so we're conditioned and we need to know who we are. Unfortunately for lawyers, law is like a knowledge-based industry. So we're trained to get to know, research, and then come and solve problems, give advice. And so there's this illusion of knowledge that we have. And sometimes we don't want to accept we don't know. You go and research it and then come and give the answer. Sadly, in the scenario we're moving into, the softer skills side, one of the greatest obstacle to knowledge there is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge. And so I even find in my mentoring and coaching practice that lawyers are very resistant to it. That said, sit down with them for an hour and what Alan was talking about starts coming out. You see all their struggles. But then there's this ego thing about accepting that I have these challenges, whether it's in a law firm or in-house legal. But those things are very, very critical. And so it's about our mindset as lawyers. And so we need to start changing that mindset. And the other side of that mindset is what Mary referred to. What is your vision for yourself? I come across a lot of lawyers who studied law just because their parents wanted them to, or maybe at the time they were making the decision, you only had law, medicine, architecture, accounting, and so, okay, law. I know somebody who was a judge or something, and then they became lawyers. It's only in recent times I've had people who have courage to say, okay, yes, I've studied law, but that's not what I want to do. I want to be an interior designer. And they up and go and become an interior designer. But we still have a lot of lawyers who are practicing law, but not necessarily what they wanted to do. And there's something missing, but they're so busy trying to make money and keep their life going and become a partner or become a general counsel that they're not dealing with self. And so within the competitive arena of what we call legal practice, whether it's in-house or in the law firms, you find that lawyers are quite prone to self-rejection. We're very self-critical, and that's not very good for our mental health. But you just continue going as if you're on an unending treadmill, faster and faster, waiting for the day the treadmill will throw you off. And so it's something really critical for lawyers to start thinking about themselves as leaders. I had to make the intentional decision to do that transition, be ahead of legal, but also be ahead of business, be in the leadership and management. And as soon as you make that transformation, then you realize how much personal development you need, whether it's the color code or Myers-Briggs, but that journey of self is needed, that very clear vision and focus on what you want to achieve. And you can't do it without personal development. And someone would ordinarily ask, so how do you get it? They don't teach it in schools. They don't teach it in law school. You have to look for areas where it's done, or in my case, that's one of the reasons I went into coaching. And I blend it with mentoring because you first have to discover who you are and what you want to achieve before you then bring in mentoring. As soon as you do that, the person flies off, achieves their vision in the shortest possible time. But unfortunately, they don't do that and they go around in the mentoring thing, 2 steps forward, 1 step backward, and it doesn't happen. So honestly, personal development, you can't do without it. And lawyers are opening up to it, but not fast enough as their clients are. Thank you.
Thank you, Marian. I want to bring this a little bit closer to home. We've talked about the general concepts about personal development, the critical skills, but I want to hear from one of you on a more personal level, whether you had to reskill and what that looked like for you. One example or two, but where did you realize that things are tight here, you need to reskill? Mary.
Yes, I have had to reskill, and different from upskilling, which we do continuously. Reskilling is having to learn something totally new for matters of success. And there's so much that I've done that I did not study for at first, but that has meant that I have had to go back to school over and over. I did not study HR, but I have had to later go and do an HR course, even after graduating and even after acquiring a master's. So as I get a clearer vision of who I am, like they've said, the sense of self is the first thing you do. What do I want to do? What are my goals? I've found that I have a passion for this, but yes, you still need the framework, which is the technical aspects that reskilling gives you. So whether you're passionate, sometimes you say, I want to be, I don't know, an activist or something, or I want to be a coach like Miriam. So that's a passion, but then you have to go and actually study the fundamentals of it. So reskilling is a real thing and it never ends. I would just say for me, that's what has brought me to where I am. Because the more I have kept my mind open to learning things that I didn't learn, the more I have moved ahead and done things that I'm more passionate about. So it's still an ongoing journey. I'm willing to even do something new tomorrow if this is where my journey takes me.
Okay. Alan, where have you found that you need to reskill?
Everywhere, really. Firstly, like you said at the beginning, they usually hire us because of our law degrees, which is really 10%. So at that point, they're guessing. We think this guy will help. But the reality is, if you're just giving legal advice, you're not helping at all. So I learned that the hard way. I've been teaching myself the leadership skills ever since. But then I also went back and decided to get an MBA just to understand the business side of things. And I've been studying a lot of that. It's very interesting where they say lawyers always run away from numbers if there's no dollar sign near it. But I've had to teach myself accounting, finance. When I'm giving advice, I actually have an analysis of how this will affect the bottom line. And that's something which I find myself gravitating more towards, because when I'm giving advice, I don't stop. I definitely have to look at the law, because that's where I think I have an advantage over the accountants in the business. But I like to know that when they're speaking, they're talking to someone who understands them and understands what they'll be saying and understands the business side of it. So all the advice that I've been giving lately has a lot more, how will the business grow? And then when I am speaking to somebody, I try to understand their position and try to understand what, if I'm speaking to engineers, I know how to speak to them in terms of what they do on a daily, but I also listen a lot. So I've had to reskill both in the technical by understanding the business people that I'm supporting, which is finance and engineering, and then also in the leadership skills, which include listening, that self-awareness, and then also the dealing with teams and being able to communicate effectively. I've gone to the point of even really reading how to write letters effectively, things people don't really take seriously, how to speak, how to hold yourself when you're speaking in public. So the lessons never end. And I think that not only have I had to reskill, but I'm still in the process of reskilling, and that won't stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam?
Thank you very much. Reskilling. I find that when I use that term for a lot of people, their hearts skip a bit, because what they hear is I have to go off and maybe go to school and change my career. So I tend to use more of learning agility these days, because like Alan said, it's just about learning something new. And as lawyers, we all know law is a social science, and it applies to every aspect of life. And so wherever you find yourself, you have to learn the scenario where the legal advice you're given applies. And so if you're working for an energy company, you need to learn the business to be able to be relevant and efficient when you're advising. If you're working in the pharmaceutical, you learn that. The same way, if you want to be a business leader, then you have to learn finance for non-financial executives, like Alan said. You have to do the leadership skills, but it's all about your agility for learning. We all said, I'm open-minded, I do all that. No, show it, live it, and do that because you want to be a better form for yourself. Now, even the coaching and mentoring, especially for managers, if you want to bring out exceptional performance in your team, then you need to be a good coach and know how to reframe their minds from the negative to the positive to bring out the best in your team. And so you need to learn how to do that. And it's reading more, maybe going for specific courses, but it's just about awareness. It's about keeping an open mind and seeing every opportunity as a learning opportunity, and also seeing failure as an opportunity for learning. Also, when you're becoming more self-aware and you identify your strengths, you identify your weaknesses, you see your weaknesses as an opportunity to collaborate. And when you collaborate, it's an opportunity to learn from the person you're collaborating with. But all in all, it's making you become a better lawyer, it's making you become a better leader, it's making you get closer to your vision. And so all those things for me come into the umbrella of learning agility. I spent 18 months trying to become a professional certified coach. I'm still in the process after that of getting certified at a higher level. But it's just so that I'll be a better coach and bring out the best in other people. Thank you.
So I want to sort of you all talked about coaching and mentoring, but generally, but I want the audience to understand what exactly are these. What is coaching and what is mentoring? What's the difference? And maybe you can tell us your experiences. Do you have coaches? Do you have mentors? You know, let us feel the practical side of this conversation. Miriam, you'll go last because I know you're a coach. Let me start with Mary and Alex, rather than Alan.
Okay. So the differences with mentoring and coaching are mentoring. If someone is your mentor, you're taking from their experience, the things they've gone through, and they are then kind of sharing best practice with you, and you can ask them questions. It can be prescriptive because someone can say, this is how I went through this, and you can try it. So that would be a mentor. And I think usually when we have mentors, there are people that either are taking the journey that want to take, that maybe inspire us, or there are people that just have like very huge experience in that area. So a mentor is more of, I've been through this, I kind of have the expertise on it and I can impart it. It can even be technical, but it can also be on the leadership side and everything. So coaching, I'm a certified coach, and what they teach us is you don't carry the answers for anybody. You don't give people the answers. However, you help people to think through things by asking them the right questions. So if you sit with a coach, I think sometimes you don't realize how many of the answers you have already. So if you're struggling with what's next for me, what am I going to do? A coach would be able to take you through a series of sessions where they're asking you these questions that kind of reveal what you possibly already know. So it is just a journey of you discovering that. I have had both a mentor and I've been also a coach and a coachee, if that works. I think for me, I gained a lot from mentorship when I was growing as a leader, as part of senior management, as somebody that needed to be more strategic, and even the technical aspects, because being in human resources wasn't something I started with. And I was able to just grow a network of mentors that have done it before. And it was very helpful for me to find answers, sometimes straight answers. Then as I grew to a certain point, I was having issues that were more of, you know, what are my thoughts around this? What do I really want? Kind of a crossroads thing. And speaking with a coach, I was able to also get the right answers, but that are coming from me. And I still maintain a coach, even though I'm also a coach, because it's also a journey and the challenges keep changing. So these are the ways you can use some of these things. And I think most workplaces right now are giving you opportunities to work with these people. They will even pay for it. So you should take advantage, because we always have these different aspects we are struggling with. It could be personally, could be professionally, and mentorship and coaching can work for you depending on what your goals are at that moment.
Okay. Alan, additional thoughts, your experience?
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak after Mary. In my experience, I find that many times, especially in our legal practice, we won't really either know that we need mentoring and coaching at a certain point, or seek it, because you're so focused on the technical side of your business. And you know, we do a lot of precedent work, so it has always been like this. You don't think about new stuff. But then I have at any one point in my life had either a mentor or a coach or both. Mentorship for me is more of following a leader, someone whose path I want to follow, and I go and ask them, how do you do this, so that I can probably, you know, follow his trajectory and not have to reinvent the wheel. And I usually follow people I admire. They don't even have to be in the legal space. But then with coaching, I usually find it's more targeted, and I'm looking for something specific. I'm not yet a coach, but I get coached quite a bit. And I think by default, you find yourself now passing on that knowledge to the people you work with, because at the end of the day, you are a leader in your space. And if your team is not ready, even mentally, especially, or emotionally, you will find they're underperforming, and that comes back to you. So it's our job, not just as lawyers in the company, but also as people who work in a team or even in a community, because I see it happening a lot even in our law society, to ensure that we can empower the people we work with, but more importantly, look for your own way of getting empowered so that you can pass on that knowledge. Otherwise, you will actually find yourself being stressed out because you're too focused on the technical and you don't know how to be effective. So I believe that both mentoring and coaching are in short supply, but I also believe that they are absolutely necessary, not just on a personal level, but also on a corporate level. So yes, many companies are offering coaching, but I think as individuals, we should seek out mentoring and coaching, not just one or the other, but both, in order to not only become better leaders or even find balance in our own lives, but also to become better leaders for effectiveness at work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Miriam?
Thank you very much. And my colleagues have done a good job on this. The perspective I want to bring is, I see mentoring as a relationship where the mentor is kind of guiding the mentee, giving them practical advice and just giving them a sense of direction. And actually, sometimes they also give psychosocial support for their maybe career, home, work. But quite often it's one way. Now for coaching, it's more like an alliance between the coach and the coachee, where the coach creates an enabling environment for the coachee to become more aware of their resourcefulness, their visions, their goals, and then also give them the tools to maximize their potential. And so the coach ends up becoming their best cheerleader. An analogy might be like someone who wants to learn how to cycle. So first they've decided they want to cycle, there's a bicycle, and they get on the bicycle, and then the coach is that person there that's cheering them on and telling them, okay, this, and acknowledging when they have done well and what's the next baby step. All right. So for mentoring, I found in the years that I was a mentor, and then when I was a mentee, and then when I became a mentor, that a lot of people wanted to be mini Miriams. And that was a problem, because my life journey is different from yours. So you needed to be sure that where I've gone is where the direction you wanted to go. And that was where coaching then came in, because coaching really gets people to get to know themselves, get to know what their vision is, their purpose, their goals, their passion. And when they decided that and then said, oh, all right, this is what I want. This is my bigger picture. At that point, if it's something that's aligned to my own experience, then I can become the mentor or direct them to somebody in that area. And I'll give you an example. I had a coachee who works in a bank, a young man, back office in the bank. And the first time we had a session, I realized that his vision was to discover the next, he's a microbiologist, but happens to be working in a bank, to discover the cure for resistance to antibiotics. That is this young man's vision, but he's sitting in the back office in a bank, and his boss is complaining that he's not motivated, he's this, he's that, and would give him a mentor who is in the bank. Compare that to somebody who was in my team in Seplat, and she identified that she wanted to become a finance lawyer in the company. And then we got a mentor, and he was a CFO, not a lawyer. Another one wanted to develop their skills in the gas business. That was where they wanted to go. So we got him the manager of the gas business, who wasn't a lawyer, but from whom they could learn the gas business, and the other one to learn finance and how corporate lending and all that stuff happens. Okay, so for me, that's really the difference. And at Unleash Academy, we do the blended bit, because it's when you use coaching to unleash that you can then apply the mentoring to get the best results you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping our audience is able to understand the difference between the two. I would like to break this a little bit and go to the comments, stroke questions. We have, I'll read them out. We have Lisa who says, sorry, did somebody raise, if anyone wants to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand. We can take questions as well. So Lisa is asking, what are the professional and personal development courses that you would suggest a young lawyer who wants to become in-house take? I don't know who would want to take that.
I
Any of
volunteer.
you? Mary, what you volunteer? Okay.
Alan, I'm volunteering. Alan, I think he would.
Okay.
do that as well.
Thank you. Well, I'll talk about what I did. First of all, of course, your technical knowledge is really your basis. But first understand the industry you're in. And if say you're looking at, I'll talk about how I've done a lot of work in the electricity sector. So I mix my training. One, I look at the sector. So I'll study power, not necessarily to be an engineer, but there's certain aspects in the law that dealt with that. So whatever area you're in, if you're in banking, study banking. So that's on the technical side of it. But you also need to look at certain effectiveness training. Some of the things I've done are, it's called the Conversations for Growth is part of the Franklin Covey program, where they tell you about lead measures, lag measures, how you measure your performance. You need to understand the other aspects of the business that are important. If your business is finance-based or is an investment company, understand certain aspects of finance and get a working knowledge. You don't have to be a professor about it unless you have the time and ability to do that. But I learned that even if you're not in a classroom, you must be studying everything that revolves around your business. That's the first aspect. But your business is also in community. So you have a social contract. So understand how to deal with people, understand negotiation tactics, understand, let's say, your place in the development of your company. So if you're working in a public body, you must be able to read your national development plans, all the policies around your business, and you're always supposed to be learning more and more about the impact you have on your society and your customer, your let's say your stakeholders. So I think you should be a sponge, take in everything, but you should have the right mix of the technical, understand your business and every aspect of your business. Even if you don't read a book, ask a question every day and get someone in every department you can talk to. And then you also have to understand the leadership aspects of your business, which make you a better team player and also a leader. So I've had to force myself to learn the things that I didn't think I would be learning out of law school. And the objective for me is to be a better leader, to be more convincing, because I rely on many people to get certain things done, and also to achieve and then articulate your benefits. So if I struggle to learn Excel, I must confess, but I had to learn Excel because that's the best way to present certain information as a lawyer. The days of only knowing Microsoft Word, please go and learn Excel, understand how you can analyze data and make decisions that use data. So even some of your data analysis tools are very important. And then there's one thing that you must learn, project management, because as a lawyer, you will become a project manager, even if you think you're not going to be one. So understand the correlation between quality, cost, and time in everything you do, because it doesn't matter whether you win or lose a case. They'll ask you, if you lost this case, did you manage to reduce the damages? So you can actually tell them, I saved you some money even if I lost the case. So how you articulate yourself to the business, most times they will want to know not whether you won or lost the case, but how much money you saved. So understand how your business speaks and speak that language. But I don't think there is a clear one-size-fits-all answer. I just think you should always be learning about your environment, whether you're in the private sector or public sector, profit, not profit. Understand where you come in and how you coordinate, you collaborate with the other departments, and make sure you are useful. That is where your power will come from. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope, Lisa, that was insightful for you. Mafrik, I'm going to read a comment from Mafrik. He says that this is a very insightful discussion. He's also offering his thoughts. He says that keeping up abreast with developments, both legal and workplace operational aspects, is critical. For instance, some in-house lawyers are really struggling with their extended roles when appointed as data protection officers, since the coming into force of the data protection laws, since it is not only involves legal issues, but also general operational aspects across departments such as ICT, HR, security, etc. Issues of ESG and business and human rights as well. So thank you, Mafrik, for that insight. Laura is asking a question, and she's asking, as a new lawyer, how do you seek to reskill while also trying to survive? I think that's a good question. I sometimes fear that it can only be possible for already accomplished experts. And at that point, it is so easy to get stuck in a routine that may be currently working. Who would like to take that, respond to that, between Mary and Miriam?
All right, let me try that.
Mm.
So first, I'd like to acknowledge her because it takes courage to say what she said. And to be honest with you, when you hear about keep an open mind, be willing to learn, learning agility, it can sometimes be daunting because there's so much out there to learn. And sometimes when you listen to older lawyers, you're like, oh gosh, will I ever be like this person? And so it can be quite disempowering. So the first thing I would say is, I'd like you to do a gap, what I call a gap analysis. Where do you want to get to, even if it's not the bigger picture? Let's say, where do I want to be in the next 2 years, next 1 year? And then say to yourself, where am I today? And then when you have to be honest, and then say, well, what do I need to do to get to where I want to be? That's the gap analysis. And so when you're clear on that and say, okay, this is what's missing between where I am now and where I want to be. The next question is, what will it take to get there? And while you're thinking that, please remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's not about a destination, it's the journey. So I'll advise baby step progress, because when you ask yourself those questions, then what you get is the power of focus. And I'll use 2 things to illustrate. One was a young man that I met, and he had done 70 LinkedIn courses. I was like, oh my word. And there were all sorts of courses. Instantly, I knew that he lacked focus. Then another one is, we often hear networking, go out there and network. I'm like, what's that? I'd rather say to people, when you've done this gap analysis, what you need to do and what it takes to get there, some of the questions would be, who do you need to help you get there? What do you need to learn? Where are you going to learn that from? Those questions you ask, the answers will then tell you what you need to start learning as baby step progress, who you need to start engaging to learn from, whether it's kind of technical, legal, or operational or business. Sometimes you don't actually need to go for a training course. You just need to sit down with someone who is an expert on that. And the way they will explain it to you will go a long way. And then please be curious, increase your curiosity quotient. If you don't understand anything, ask the question. Even if you need to say, okay, this is just a clarification question. I don't really understand what you mean by this. Within this context, what does it mean? How does A lead to B? Or you've said this word about 5 times. What makes it important? And then people like when they know that you're listening to them and you're asking questions. And so the answers to the questions you ask yourself will give you the process you need to take, the courses you need to take, or the things you need to learn on your own, or what you need to spend more time doing, the people you need to engage. Your stakeholders are very, very important that you need to be talking to get where you need to. And then when you see those older lawyers that seem to know it all, believe you me, a few years ago, they were probably worse than you. We didn't have all the technology you have today to learn as quickly as you do. And sometimes you just have to pretend to be confident because you're a partner or you're a general counsel, and it's not because you know it. because you know that you can go off and research or ask questions and get it. So please be very clear on where you want to go, get your power of focus on, take baby steps and celebrate those baby step progress you make. And just know that it's your own journey. You're not competing with anybody but yourself. You just want to be the best you can. And there's too much out there to get it to disempower you. Focus on your strengths and just keep on going. You get there. All right.
Thank you. And another comment from somebody called Caroline. She says, hello, this has been great. How can one get access to in-house legal opportunities when looking to transition from a decade of private practice to in-house? Interesting. Mary, do you want to take that just from a general perspective? Or Alan? Mary, you want to add? You're not sure?
I would say I would look at it as looking for opportunities is the usual answers. I mean, LinkedIn or all these platforms where you can find them. But I think maybe Alan, who is in the industry, could have a better answer. I will give an HR answer, which is we advertise, look at the platforms and everything. Yeah.
I think even the HR answer makes sense for us because that's where everything starts. Yeah,
sure. Yes, some roles are advertised, others are headhunted, I guess, for the maybe more senior ones. But I think mostly ads and platforms where jobs are posted. And I also think kind of a platform like this one, I'm sure, Gloria, opportunities come through just from here. So yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Alan can add.
Alan, do you want to add to it, or Miriam?
Maybe let me speak from my own experience. I know I'm one of those. It's not very common in Uganda for someone to move from his own law firm, which was where I was running a law firm, and then I moved in-house. And many people started saying, you have left the practice. In reality, I was doing a lot more practice in-house than I was in my own law firm. And from this question, I see two questions. One, the opportunities in-house for a lawyer who's running their own practice, who would consider external counsel. I think it comes from one, figuring out what you're passionate about. Is there some work that you do that you would like to become an expert in without having to learn on your own? I personally moved back in-house because I did a lot of energy work. First of all, before I went into private practice, I worked with one of the utilities, went back into private practice, did a lot of energy work, then realized it would be better to go back in-house because you build your skill and you can come back out, whenever you want. Wait a second. You can you need to first decide whether in-house work is for you. And then you need to build you need to get an advantage over every other lawyer who is in that field. So start studying the field that you're interested in. If it's banking, study banking. And then you already have exposure to certain clients, especially the corporate in the areas you want to work in. Be a bit more visible in that space. Engage more with the people who you're working with in the area you want to work in. If your law society has a cluster, go do that. If you know someone who's already in that department, make sure you engage them. You could even get mentored by them. And then look out for opportunities. Sometimes you could even just walk up to the person, especially if they're in your law society, and say, I'm looking for opportunities. Can I learn? If you're a younger lawyer, of course, you could decide to climb up the ladder by starting at entry level and going up. If not, you will always make sure you're aware of what's going on, so that if they ever need that position, you have built your profile for you to adequately move in-house. So it's becoming more and more common for people to actually move from law firms in-house or back in-house in some cases. one, it's not something you should be worried too much about. It's a job like any other. You basically be reducing your clients from many to one, although your stakeholders grow. But you first need to understand that you'll have to think a little bit differently when you have one client and go into the business mindset as opposed to as instructed. So yes, my answer is learn everything you can, network as much as possible, although I think Marian said it's not networking, but find out more about the business through the people, and then make sure you're known. If you can, write about it, write a lot more about it. We've had people get very big government jobs because they're always writing in the newspapers. So make sure your idea is to get an advantage over everyone else who would be looking for the job along with you. So yes, thank you. And then make sure you attend things like this, because you probably will get expertise.
Thank you for that add. So Caroline, I hope you got your answer. We have Pamela who's asking, I think she's giving a comment. To be an in-house, you just need to have an open mind and a willingness to learn. You may not have the technical yet. Those are the things which you learn when you get there. Thank you, Pamela. Barbara has a question, and she's saying, since there's so much development around AI and all the concerned efforts to phase out lawyers, I'm not sure about that, the concerted efforts to phase out lawyers, what are the key skills that a young lawyer can factor in order to remain relevant? I don't know I think we already tackled this earlier in this was already tackled. Maybe somebody wants to give a very brief, very brief response to this, but this was already tackled. Barbara is talking about need to determine which industry to join. This should guide on opportunities. Put your desire out. GCs, I think she's responding to one of the questions. Others are advertised online sites. So I don't see any other question or comment here. Unless there's somebody who would like to ask a question from the one who has their hand raised.
Gloria, I see some questions in the Q&A section.
Okay.
If you can
As
share.
we go to the Q&A section, there's somebody who has their hand raised. Could you unmute and ask your question? Okay, while that is happening, in the Q&A, we have a question from Edward. He's asking, my question to the panelists is on the overall outlook on the future of the legal profession in light of the technology onslaught. I have in mind recent developments, the extent that it has been reported that an AI robot will defend a human in court in an upcoming matter in the US. This is a so-called robot lawyer. Might we at some point find the ELS in competition with EA Robot Lawyers Association? I don't know, is this a reality for us? Who wants to take this?
Let me take a stab at it, and I'm sure Marian has a more comprehensive answer. I was actually reading up on this. That robot is in traffic court, so I didn't take it too seriously. So I do believe that technology has already taken over some of our work, and we are the ones who are using that technology anyway. And technology is here to stay. We need to accept that. There's certain aspects that, of course, technology will never handle. Like they'll never fully understand your culture. In terms of relationship building, they're not as effective as we are. The ability to control, they'll be a bit too logical. And they can't handle the gray areas that sometimes our legal practice deals with. You won't have, I don't believe a robot is as effective at developing strategy as a lawyer. But that said, if you are purely tactical as a lawyer, where you're saying, I will wait for this case and I'll handle it a certain predictable way, you're ripe for a takeover. You have to be strategic. So you have to be able to understand the impact of the decisions you make and the steps you take and what that means in the big picture. That is the area where you will never find a robot dealing with, because in terms of strategy, they're mainly tools that you will use. So make sure that you can use the robot as a tool and not be replaced by the robot in the soft skills or the strategic aspects of your business. Just don't stay tactical, because tactical is predictable and you can actually get a robot to do that. Then make sure you can use the technology to improve your work, and then understand that the real value is inside your head in terms of understanding. They say what the best lawyer knows how to see around a corner. Make sure you can see around every corner and be an effective risk manager, an effective strategy developer, and then also be very effective in the communications, convincing, and planning aspects of your business. So look further ahead, and you will never be replaced. But this has been a fear for a long time. The robot is just one aspect of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Grace is asking, what tips can you offer to an advocate that is setting up a legal unit for the very first time in an organization? Miriam, you want to take that?
All right, maybe I'll try that, because I've had the experience both ways. In fact, I'll share a story. When I joined Seplat, we had an away day, probably about a week or two after I joined. And the CEO attended an away day and said, you guys, we've been trying this to have a legal department and it's not working. And so this is the last chance I'm going to give you. If this doesn't work, then I'll just outsource all our legal work to a law firm, and you have 1 year. So imagine that. It wasn't just setting up a new law firm, legal unit. It was that there was one that was not working and hadn't worked for about 5 years. And there was lack of motivation for the lawyers that were there and all that. And then I was supposed to turn that around. And it had to be a very strategic thing, and on 2 levels. One was, what is the role of the legal department to the business? That's another thing that's changing, and that AI will not take over, because every company is different in size, global reach, whether they're listed or not listed, and then the industry they are. So that was one, to be very clear about the role of the legal department within that company and what was expected of it, and communicate that over and over. Then the other one, that included stakeholder management. I had to get that skill of getting those people on our side, because there was too many people at the high level that were saying negative things about legal. So I needed to take care of that and take it away and reframe it to them saying positive things about legal. But in doing that, we had to be very honest and identify what the problems that they were complaining about were, which then brought me to the legal team itself. And like Alan was saying, you have to adopt a business approach to it. So first, we had to deal with the lack of motivation in the team. Then we had to look at expertise. So we had to review the capacity and competence of the people that we had. And then to bring in a new culture. So I found myself dealing with the DNA of my team, and dealing with what our vision and mission was. Like, we were a business, though we were a unit. You have to think about it as a business. We came out with what our unique selling point was. We came out with what our values were that would guide out the way we provided service to the business. And then also formed, would I say, collaborative unions with the different core departments that we worked with. So we had to do a stakeholder map, and we did all that. So first, the lawyers started feeling better about themselves. Their resourcefulness started coming out, and then those values. And our tagline was, we solve your problem in half the time. Now, that doesn't sound like a legal tagline, but we had to think like the business. Why? Because that was a problem that people had. A legal took too long. Their documents were too long. So we said, no, we'll solve your problem in half the time. And so we came out with service level agreements for ourselves at 48 hours, we'll turn it over. If not, we'll manage the expectations. So doing that, and also dealing with our visibility with stakeholders. And you'll be shocked to realize that after that, 2 people in legal were runners up to the CEO's award. Now, that was shocking, because in the energy industry, it's either operations or finance that will do that. So if you're going to start a unit, think about those things. What's our role? Who are key stakeholders? what of my own team? Let's know what our DNA is. If you can't do all that, vision, mission, USP, tagline, values. Our values were something like VIP. Okay, I can't remember now, that was a couple of years ago. So please do that. But your team is very important because they are the ones that will be delivering and dealing with the issues on a day-to-day basis while you're dealing with the leaders. That's very important to do and represent them well. I had a pact with my team that if they made a mistake and it was an honest mistake, I'll take responsibility for it in front of management or the board. And so they were not afraid to make mistakes. So it meant that their creativity came up and I kept to that. But I did tell them that if I take responsibility twice, then by the third time it's a decision to do wrong and we'll have to do something about it. So little things like that would help. And then the final one is you have to sometimes outsource legal work. So the law firms that you outsource the legal work to is very important. So the process that you use to do that can actually be a problem because sometimes the CEO and other managers are used to getting in their friends or their golf colleagues to be the law firms. So I had to do a beauty parade and it was an audit requirement so that we knew we're getting the best. So you also have to factor that in. I don't know whether that helps, but those were things I experienced.
Thank you so much. The questions are still coming in, so allow me to read from them. We have Frank who's asking, how do you break the limitation to go tech in the environment where much of the legal work is done in a traditional way? Contract, court, file analysis. I don't know who wants to take that. This is now freestyling. The one with the best
let me
answer.
take a stab at it. Marian might have the best answer, but it's something I'm going through right now. The idea of tech for a legal department, first of all, you have your organization looking at you as a cost center, so they'll probably not splurge or spend a lot of money on legal tech for you. But you also have certain limitations internal, because the way you should go is you should look at people, process, and then technology. Don't rush to technology. Won't solve your problems if you don't understand the processes that you're following and then the people who are dealing with them. So first, if you're the head of department, make sure everybody understands everything about your vision for technology. Then map every process. If you're doing contracts, understand how the procurement process starts from the time a request is made. Actually, from the time you're doing your budget or your operating plan for the year. Understand where the contracts will come from, understand how contracts are drafted, what the approval processes are, and map them. If you can, do a proper detailed map of every stage and understand what you need to do in terms of the processes. And then make sure that people in your department understand their role, especially if they're specialized, understand how they flow in the entire value chain, document it. And then look and see if you have technology that you can use. If you have limited resources, see if there is some software that already exists that you say you need to buy an extension or something, or like an addition. But you have to make sure that people can use it. And then when you adopt it, make sure that, what they call it, lose any safety nets. Make sure that you don't have software running and then somewhere in there another legal officer is analyzing data in Word. So make sure everyone understands and is on the same page when it comes to technology. Secondly, understand what value that technology is bringing to you. Don't just look at shiny software. Make sure you can understand and explain to the business that if I use this software, which will probably cost around $50,000 a year, I will make you $100,000 a year. So can you as a legal department guarantee that by understanding this, you will become so efficient that you'll even see the benefits that you're giving the company financially? If you win a case, there must be a financial impact. So make sure you make a business case for the software that you're adopting. First, also determine whether you need it. If your job is to pass paper on to the external counsel, maybe make sure your outside lawyers are the ones who buy the tech. And then if you're actually working in collaboration, make sure everyone you work with understands where you're coming from. So in my own experience, we decided to use, before getting software, we actually mapped our processes using Excel and Microsoft 360 tools. Then we thought, let's start with contracting because it's usually a bit more predictable. We got process execution software, but then we rather than do our own and reinvent the wheel, we'll go to our ERP and do an extension from an already existing program. And we started using that. So you don't always have to have your own. You can always use what other people are using. The guys who are ahead of us, lawyers who are late adopters. So try and see if you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but then also try and see if you can find one particular activity where you can go. So you don't have to do a big bang. Pick one area. Say most people will start with contracting, with the contract management side of it. Let's say start with contracts, deal with things like a calendar for when contracts expire. Make sure you can do version controls and see how the documents are. Some of those things you can either use existing software or you can actually build your software. Then look at document management. These days there are rules on document management. You can provide justification on data privacy, but you're ultimately telling the business you're creating efficiency and making sure that you can deal with it and making value. So don't forget people, process, technology, and then you have to have a value proposition for the software. And then also ask yourself, should I customize or buy off the shelf? But thank you.
Thank you. Back to the questions. There seems to be there's a question that keeps coming up. I'll first read both questions to give a better sense. Mark is saying that if one pursues a career as an in-house counsel, one can be said to be limiting their legal experience, considering you will major mostly in corporate law. At the same time, we have I think this is from the chat, somebody else says, thank you very much for the webinar. Many people think becoming an in-house counsel is career suicide for lawyers. They say it's not actual practice. Would you encourage a young lawyer to become an in-house counsel? I'm not sure where this is coming from, but I don't know. Mary, first give us a sense of, are we committing suicide when we come to work for corporate firms?
Absolutely not. It's a different path, but it's a good path. And I think many people have grown from it into, we have Miriam here and how she has gone from there to do all these great things. I just think that it becomes suicide if you only choose to think of yourself as an in-house lawyer and that's it. So like I've been saying, think beyond now and how this can lead you to the next step. It's not suicide. It's actually a place for opportunities to even become business leaders, to become entrepreneurs. There's so much that you learn that is very cross-functional that I think people outside may not have the opportunity to experience, which puts you in another category. It's not suicide.
Okay. Miriam, what's your take?
I would say that is an absolute myth. Yeah, and I'm only just now, I think I mentioned it to you, Gloria, that after I left in-house work as a lawyer, I got a lot of people putting pressure on me to set up a very small boutique law firm to support small and medium-sized enterprises in their corporate work. Now, the myth there is that when people say it's only corporate law, what is corporate law? When you think about a corporation and every aspect of a corporation, everything that comes in there is corporate law. And so I majored in energy and international investment law and policy. In my career, working for companies like Shell, ABB, Seplat, I've done everything from financing to compliance to risk management to data protection. I was a data protection officer for Shell in London at one time, to things like health and safety, to maritime, to what's this about bringing in, ports when you're bringing in goods, about tax, everything, gas, transportation, human resource law, because you have to deal with it when you are within the corporate sector. But most importantly is the variety of people you meet. And in-house legal is a school for business because you're advising the business. You're also advising them in their relationship with the government, with the community. And these are things that you have to learn when you're in-house. So it's quite easy. I think it's easier to leave in-house legal and set up your own business. And it doesn't have to be a law firm. It can be any business whatsoever because you have a well-rounded view of how to run a company because you've had to advise everybody in there. So I would say it's a myth. It's a wonderful thing to do, but you have to be very, very sure that that's what your vision for yourself is. That's the passion you have. Because if not, then that's when you're going to have a problem. All right. So it's very versatile and it's really interesting.
Thank you, Miriam. I want to move from the questions from the Q&A section just a little bit as we slowly come to the top of the second hour. And I'd like for all of you to sort of, you may have spoken about these issues, kind of skimmed over them, but I want us to sort of concentrate on them right now. And I'm referring to challenges or opportunities that in-house lawyers have in adapting to the evolving nature of work. If you could sort of speak to why are we challenged? Where do you see us being challenged? And then what are the opportunities that we have for this? Thank you.
Am I going first? Okay.
Yes, Mary, you're going first.
With my general overview, I would say I think the challenges that I see people having are, like I said before, looking at their work in a silo and not looking beyond that. Looking at the fact that they are more than lawyers. The other challenge is understanding the business. You don't understand the business also will just look at you as just a lawyer. And at some point after you have taught everyone the law, maybe you won't have any more to do. And I think also that ties into not having a growth mindset, which is what we're talking about. Are lawyers really enrolling for courses in personal development? Are they trying to learn how finance works, how other, departments work? So just not having that is a challenge. The opportunities I see here are that there's opportunities to diversify your experience and your skills as an in-house lawyer. There's an opportunity for you to be a game changer. I think if you're constantly updated on what's happening around, even if it's in the legal space, if you're constantly looking at the technical innovation that's going on, if you're working in a company that needs a little push into the more progressive aspects of the world, then this is your chance. I think maybe you need to, and I was seeing the question of working in a place where this is not embraced, you're the solution. You need to go and, that's what a game changer is, unless you still want to be tactical, but push for changes, but you need to, again, show what value it will bring. So I think there's an opportunity for you, having been here and experienced such conversations, to go and change the way we view lawyers, the rest of us, the third parties. So go be a game changer, go be innovative and creative, read, research, keep yourself up to date, and learn every aspect of the businesses that you're working in. And in that way, you end up at the right tables and representing the company in a different way. And please translate law for us. Let us understand what you're saying, because then that means we can find solutions together. And please continue to upskill and reskill. So I think those are the things I would say about the opportunities and challenges, but I believe this is also a step talking about these things. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Alan?
Yes. The last time one of the lawyers told me I wasn't in practice, I pulled rank. I realized I'd been in practice longer than him, and I told him to apologize. It's very interesting how many people think when you get in-house, you're only answering questions regarding the actual business, and you have one client. I've found myself having to deal with, you have a caseload of 200, but at the same time, you're looking at getting your guys out of jail. So you're dealing with policemen. You're not even just dealing with a court. You're actually getting to the police, dealing with that issue there. You're going through the courts. With all our engagement, we actually ended up getting a division of the court strictly for utility cases. So you have to do a lot of stakeholder management. And the things you do in-house, you actually get to take a lot more risks than you do as external counsel, because with external counsel, you're probably working on an as-instructed basis. And then every business will now understand that the cost of outsourcing work might exceed the benefit of insourcing. So there's that right balance between having an in-house legal department and an external counsel, and you need to be in control of that conversation. I think you do a lot more in-house than you would with external counsel, unless you're one of those people who's built, for the hustle that a law firm will give you. I've worked in both law firms and in-house, and I've seen the gains, the challenges and opportunities of both. With working in a law firm, you have to know everything already. No one's going to come and train you and help you grow in that. You also have to be very careful when it comes to billing, because that's a treacherous area, and you do a lot more business development on your own. When you move in-house, you're more strategic. You actually can sit down and be predictable in how you think and grow, and you're allowed to focus more. So the in-house for me gave me a lot more opportunity to grow and perfect my craft, and has allowed me to meet more people and get my profile built through focused work. I believe when you move in-house, as some people happen, don't disappear, don't become invisible. Stay in your community, volunteer to do some stuff for your law society. Make sure you're seen. That is the career that you build yourself. But having said that, there's no one who can say one is better than the other, because they're totally different. Your metrics are different. When you work in a law firm, your real metric is billable hours. How much money are we bringing in? That's all. When you work in a company where you get your salary and whatever, that may not actually be a target, but you still have to show that you're bringing benefit to the company. But at the end of the day, whether you're in-house, whether you're not, it is you who has to build your own career. It's you who has your own value proposition. It's you who has to deliver. So wherever you are, deliver, because there's really no difference. And I tell everyone that the in-house legal department of Umeme is actually a law firm. We just happen to have one client, but a very busy client. So we are running our own law firm, and with every law firm that we engage on our panel, we are co-counsel. So we just make sure that you do external counsel for risk management, and you will always find the business there. But at the end of the day, don't when you're asking about in-house, don't ask someone in a firm, because they will not understand what in-house means. Ask the in-house counsel. When you're asking about a firm, ask the person in the firm. But get as wide knowledge as you can, and then you will find that you'll make a decision that is that's easier to deal with. But at the end of the day, your career is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Miriam?
Thank you very much.
Opportunities.
It's difficult to go after Alan with that sort of response. Well, looking at the future of in-house counsel, there are about 3 or 4 things I'll mention. First is seeing yourself as part of the business, okay? The second one now is technology. The third one is communication. And the fourth one is handling the new generation of lawyers coming. So the first one is, traditionally, like we've discussed here, the legal market was a seller's market. So we had our series of expertise and what we know, and that's what we're offering to our clients, and they take it. Now it's changed to a buyer's market. So the buyers know what they want. They have multiple alternatives of how to get it. And so they're dictating what is in the market. And in the case of an in-house counsel, it's the business, it's management, it's your business colleagues that are the buyers of your service. And so you have to learn what they want, how best to service the business to get value. So 2 things that an in-house legal department does is to prevent the erosion of value that has already been built by the operation. So for instance, to make sure that litigation, tax, fines and all that don't come and erode the value. But also you're supposed to create value with the other businesses. So you're there at the table from the beginning when projects and deals are being discussed, so that you put in your knowledge of the business and the project is designed in a way that you're going to create value. All right. So one of the challenges there is that a lot of the teams, the leaders in the legal department might see this, but your team may not see it and just see themselves coming every day to do contracts. And I'll give you an example where in Seplat, the scorecard from the directors for the bonus that we're going to increase gas production by a certain number. And if we got it to that number, then everybody was going to get 100% bonus. And now within my team, there was somebody that was dealing with supply chain and was complaining that his role was not as sexy as the other person's role. And I said, okay, what are you dealing with now? That he was dealing with the contract for gas compressors, and it's been taking a long time. I said, can you see the direct link between that gas compressor contract that you're dealing with and the bonus you're going to get at the end of the day, the corporate goal? And he didn't. And I said, okay, explain to me what's going to get us the gas figures that we need. He said, oh, yeah, we need to put compressors to pump out more gas. I said, yes. And you are the one sitting on top of the contract that'll get us those compressors as soon as possible so that we meet our target before the end of the year. And his eyes opened, because I knew he had mentioned to me that he was waiting to finish paying for the piece of land he needed to build a house for his family. And that bonus was what he needed to do that. So as soon as he realized that, he jumped up and said, this contract is going to be done in the next couple of days. And if anybody gets in my way, I will bulldoze them away. That contract will be with you in less than a week. And so then he was helping me deliver what the board had set up. So we as in-house counsel need to find a way to make sure that all the lawyers see a direct link between what they are doing to the business goals and objectives. Technology comes in, you need to use technology to do some of these things. And it's really the only department, the legal department, that gets creative and adapts to technology within the time the market is demanding it, that will survive. If they don't do that, management might decide, take all this legal work to law firms, they have the technology, or whatever aspect of it might even go to accounting firms, M&A and the rest of them. So if you don't do that, then you're going to lose the business. Then communication is another one. Lawyers sometimes are not the best communicators. I'll give you an instance. Someone asked a question about how to convince the business to bring in technology if it's expensive, and Alan gave a wonderful answer. The aspect that is relevant to communication is that sometimes it might actually be the erosion of value that creates the need for that technology. So compliance, there was a time we were fined in 1 year $1 million because the regulator increased the fine. Now, to go and say we need to automate this thing and empower people, lawyers would go and start by telling you, last year we were fined, this department was fined. And then you've lost your audience because they think you're pointing fingers at them in there to blame. Simple change to that and just say, imagine a world where this company, having made $20 million, doesn't have any fines, doesn't have any litigation, this, that, and we're going to make this, and we get bonuses like this. Yeah. What do you think can be the obstacle to doing that? So you kind of build them up and say, right, now this compliance thing is only going to cost $10,000. And just with that, it's going to save us $1 million of fines as we got last year. But by then they're really going up. So effective communication is a big one, so that you get the people that need to make the decisions on your side. And finally, the young people that are going to take over from us. They're a different group of lawyers. I hear managers complain a lot of times, and it brings toxicity. That you're not taking time to understand where they are coming from. They have been formed and raised in a totally different environment than we have been. They are used to technology. They are used to being efficient, doing this. And sometimes we see them as lazy. because they sit on their phones and all that. So we need to be creative too on how to deal with these people, listen more to them and find out how we're going to create that view, because if they don't see the career path, they are leaving. Sometimes they even leave to go abroad. That's another problem we have, because they think they'll have better opportunities. So we need to create time within a legal department to make sure that the lawyers we're bringing in see a very clear development path for growth and impact. Then they will stay to help you deliver that in-house department. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Mary, Alan, I don't know, is there anything that you feel that we should have spoken about? Because you've been fielding questions from me and from the audience, but is there that one burning thing you're like, before this webinar ends in the next 5 minutes, this is what I want to leave behind? Is there that burning thing that we haven't tackled? Mary, I know you've been my go-to. General, before we go to specific, what is that thing that you think we need to know that we didn't tackle today? As we come to a close of the webinar.
Just something that I would just reiterate what Alan said at the beginning, and I wrote it down, that you're the conscience of the company. I found that very informative, and I think if you can think about it that way, it will take you a long way. That's it. Otherwise, I feel like we covered a lot.
Thank you, Mary. Alan?
Thank you. I've actually been learning a lot. I think mine is community. How involved are you in your community at work? How involved are you in your community in, say, your law society? If you're part of the law society, are you a backbencher or are you involved? And then how involved are you in the other aspects of development? Every lawyer, essentially, the biggest person, you need people, and not just the people you work with, but all your stakeholders, and how you deal with people says a lot about your maturity. So I think, one, be involved in community through, first of all, the people you work with every day. Make sure they understand the value. Then look at every other community that you're in, your school WhatsApp groups, etc. Your law society is very important to you. And then, try and deal with every stakeholder and create the relationships that you need. That way, it's a guarantee you will grow, not just because you learn from different people, but also you will be able to get help from someone who already knows you. You won't have to start introducing yourself before. That's the real definition of networking. Find out what people need, give it to them. Then later on, they will know who you are. I think that's the best advice that anyone that I'm thinking, that is something that has helped me a lot. And then in terms of growth, there are so many maturity models online. Study them. Make sure you get a seat at the table. Don't be tactical. Don't be the guys who they pull out only when they have problems. Otherwise, and they will. That's how they always start. And I think the idea to grow doesn't come from the organization handing the growth to you. You have to prove yourself each and every day. And it's almost a guarantee. When they hire you, they will hire you as a lawyer and put you in the corner and wait until you prove yourself. So please go ahead and prove yourself. Learn a lot. Learn fast. Don't think this is something which you will learn in 20 years. You can actually grow in 1 year. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Miriam?
Thank you very much. I've learned a lot here myself. Thank you so much. What I'll say is, please focus on your values. What are your values? Because your values are things that will drive you to achieve whatever goal you've set for yourself. It's like the fuel in your car when you're traveling. And so when I hear people talk about, oh, how do I learn? What do I do? I say, okay, if you look at your values, I'm sure people sitting around here might have things like growth, achievement, excellence. Then you say to yourself, what does growth mean for me? If I didn't grow, what would happen? So for instance, you would say, growth is a deep value of mine, because if I don't grow, I'll start decaying and I feel I'll die, I won't be able to achieve my potential and all that. And so when you realize, and it's okay, what do I then need to do to show that growth is a deep value that I hold? And you find yourself saying things like study more, create opportunities, raise my hand and volunteer for projects, go to town halls and listen to people I admire when they are speaking, go on YouTube and watch that. So as soon as you align your value, you will see that learning and all those will become easier. And it also gives you resilience because you're going to get some resistance sometime. And instead of when you want to give up, you then remember that what's driving me is that growth or excellence or achievement is a value that I hold dearly. And those values also translate into the values of the entity, the department, or the company you're running. And that's what keeps you focused where you're going. And to do that, the last thing I would say is please focus on what. When you're asking yourself questions, focus first on the what, not the how. The how often makes us get discouraged because they say, how can little me, how can I do this? Just focus on the what that you want to do. The universe will conspire to make it happen. The universe will conspire and bring you the how to do it. First, get your clarity of who you are and what you want. You'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam, Alan, Mary. This has been a very, very productive afternoon for me. If I can just go home on this note, I'm fine. And I hope that it's the same with the audience. I would like to thank you, the audience, the Secretariat, for making this happen. And I hope that we'll have future topics where you could come back and share with us your knowledge. And for the audience, I hope you learned something new. And until next time, goodbye from me. Bye.